Hello there, welcome to Gardener's World. Although it's a beautiful autumnal day today, certain areas have had ground frost already this year. Whether we like it or not, winter's coming. And in today's programme, we should be looking at ways of protecting the garden against the worst of the weather. And I'm lifting this eucomis, which of course comes from South Africa. We put it into the ground in its pot to make it easy to lift out. And it's very tender, so that needs to go into the greenhouse. But the cannas and bananas and dahlias can stay out a little bit longer. Another thing we should be doing on today's programme is looking at some hardy plants and just testing them to see if they genuinely are hardy by planting them out, and then we'll monitor them over the winter. Rachel will be planting up some irises into pots, and Chris will be introducing a parasite into the garden. And if this sounds a little strange, he's got a very good reason for it. Now, the long borders are still looking pretty good, I reckon, but inevitably at this time of year, the general effect is on the wane, and it's individual star plants that hold your attention. And the simplest thing to do to maintain those is just deadhead them, and that will encourage more flowers, and also you lose some of that wet, bedraggled look that you can get on a miserable autumnal day. So remove wet leaves as well, so that they don't suppress flowers. The delphinium has come back really well. We cut that back hard in July, and now it's repaying us with its autumnal display. Now, we may be looking at ways of protecting the garden this week, but don't forget it's a good time to be planting. The plants can get established because the roots will get in the ground, there's plenty of moisture, the soil is really warm, and plants can get established before demands are made on them next spring. And I want to plant something to clothe the arch here in the cottage garden. A clematis must be the most common climber that you'll get in any garden. And there is really a clematis that will cover the whole of the year. With a bit of manipulation, you can have one flowering from January right through to Christmas Day. You can start off with the small flowering clematis, the spring ones. They're then followed by the large flowering group, which will take you right through from the end of May to the end of July. And the third group, typified by Clematis viticella, flower on that season's growth, and those are the ones that you prune back down to the ground, small flowers, which will go right through to Christmas if you've got a shelter spot. Now, this one I'm putting in here is Clematis armandii. As you can see, it's evergreen, very, very distinctive, and it has wonderful small flowers, massive small flowers in April that smell of vanilla. Really beautiful fragrance. The idea being, as we walk through, you just catch that wonderful whiff of vanilla from those flowers. Now, it's slightly tender. It's best to put it in a sheltered spot. Now, I've dug a deep hole there because with all clematis, you do need to plant them deep. Clematis wilt is the big enemy, and the best way to counter that is to plant them at least a couple of inches deeper than they are in the pot, and it could even go up to that bottom leaf, so that if it does get wilt, it'll only die above ground and then regenerate from below ground. Also, if you think that they like plenty of moisture, it's a good idea to add plenty of organic matter to the whole. Now, this is very coarse material. It's got a bit of chopped straw, the strulch that I showed you earlier in the year, mixed up with our own garden compost. The reason for using such coarse material is not for nutrition, but to provide a really good loose root run for the plant as it grows. And there is a final tip, which is to counter slug damage, because a lot of what passes as clematis wilt might well be slug damage. And we're going to put a collar. This is a plastic pipe that's been sawn up. Just put it over the plant so it sits at about that height. That will stop slugs nibbling the stem and will save most of the problems. Now, that's going in nice and deep. Soil back round. Push the pipe in. And the final thing to do, even if it's a rainy day, even if the ground is wet, is to water it in really well.
Well, that's going to look beautiful. But there are lots of plants in the garden that do need a bit of extra protection to help get them through the winter. And that means really keeping them frost-free. If you've got a greenhouse, that would be ideal, but if not, a porch would probably be sufficient. Citrus can withstand cold, but frost will kill the flowers and may damage the leaves, so take them under cover in the autumn until the spring. Remember, they don't need warm conditions, just frost-free. Now you should ease back on the watering through the winter. Don't stop completely, because obviously the foliage, any fruits that are on the plant, they're going to still need some moisture to keep going. It's also a good time to just check for any pests that would also enjoy this nice warm environment through the winter. And then lastly, just perk it up with a good bit of foliar feed. And this is seaweed extract, so just spray it on. This Pelargonium sudoides is a real favourite of mine. It's tender in some areas and just too beautiful to take any risks with. So I'm going to lift it, pot it up into some well-drained compost, and then keep it in a light, frost-free place over the winter. Non-hardy fuchsias can be cut back once they're dormant, and any non-flowering shoots can also be used as cuttings. Make sure you keep them in a frost-free place until the spring and reduce the watering to a minimum, just enough to keep the plants ticking over through the winter. Now, one plant that isn't tender are the little dwarf irises, reticulata irises. There's a very good tip with these. If you put a piece of this sort of netting over the drainage hole in the base of the pot and then put your crocks on over it just to hold it in place, you're going to deter slugs and snails from crawling in through the drainage hole and nibbling all the bulbs from the underneath. So the compost goes in. This is a good gritty mixture because, of course, most bulbs like and need good drainage. And you want to fill it up fairly well because the bulbs, as you will see, are tiny. Let's get these out. And you put them in, again, you want to have a good sort of 2 or 3 inches of compost above them. And you want to put them in about, well, they always say about 3 inches apart. I probably do them a bit closer than that in a pot. And then you're going to get a really good display. Now, when they come up, you get lovely, slender, green foliage. And the flowers are going to flower at about 6 inches high, so they're really very small, which makes them good not only in pots, but particularly nice in rockeries, in raised beds, that sort of thing. And then, funny enough, once it's finished flowering, the foliage keeps going, so you end up with really quite long strands of leaves. Now, as a final trick, I don't know about you, but I'm absolutely plagued by squirrels, and mice can be a problem with bulbs, small bulbs as well. And so a good trick is to use either a really good piece of netting on the top, or you could use something like this, like a chicken wire, and just bend it right down firmly over the rim of the pot. Now, it's not important that this doesn't look nice at this stage, because as soon as the leaves emerge and come out and begin to get near to that mesh or the netting, you just remove it. Now, another bulb that you can treat in this way is crocuses, but of course they're just so versatile. They can go into the ground, in a border, they can also even grow up through grass. And Tony Good, who's from Helsdon near Norwich, has got one of the national collections of crocus, and he thinks they're a little bit special.
As a child, I was fascinated by the early spring flowers that appeared out of nowhere, and my grandparents fostered that interest in gardening and encouraged me to learn the names of plants. I'd only been 4 or 5 at that time. Well, generally, crocuses can be grown in the open garden in Britain very straightforwardly, and most of us are familiar with the spring flowering plants grown in parks and gardens, and the little species crocus that can be very happily cultivated in pots and troughs. For me as a collection holder, I need to be able to keep the individual accessions separate, so growing them in pots is really a necessity. I've taken to using cut-down milk cartons as square plastic pots. Obviously it's cheaper. There are other advantages. The pots are straight-sided. They pack together very neatly and tightly. They don't allow slugs and snails to get in between them, and it makes the soil mass much less likely to freeze if the plants are packed closely. Crocuses need a well-drained compost that will retain some moisture. What they really resent is waterlogging. It's a mixture of John Innes compost number 3, a nice coarse gritty sand with lots of sharp particles in it, some perlite, which is the white stuff, which helps to aid moisture retention and also aerates the compost, and a little bit of added fertiliser just to make sure we feed that new corm for the next season. This is an interesting new hybrid crocus. It's a cross between Crocus reticulatus and Crocus angustifolius. It's a very vigorous hybrid, raised in Eastern Europe. This single corm has 4 growing shoots, and that promises me a chance of 4 new corms at the next repotting. The single best species for naturalising a lawn would be Crocus thomasinianus. It'll stand more shade than most crocuses. Most really want to be in the sun. And this one is fairly early flowering, will come up as the snowdrops are still looking good, and will produce sheets of colour. Seeds around in most gardens in Britain, so it very quickly establishes large colonies. Ten years ago, Crocus sebriae tricolor was a rare plant cultivated by a few specialists and very expensive to buy. I think I may have paid as much as £3 for a single corm. Now you can pick up 20 from the garden centre for a couple of pounds. It's very difficult to choose a favourite from a collection of plants that I'm passionate about, but some of the ones that particularly draw me to them are the ones that change colour as they open. Plants like Crocus imperatae, which have a biscuity coloured outer side to the petals, and then when they open, a great big lilac flower appears, and quite a dramatic colour change. I suppose you could say that crocuses have become an obsession for me over the last decade or so, since I started growing more than just a dozen. My wife has grown to love them. She's not a gardener, and I think when we were first married she was a bit frustrated that I'd come in from work through the front door, straight out the back door and into the garden. The people I work with probably just think I'm playing crazy.
Well, if you're mad about crocus and you can't wait till spring to see their wonderful optimistic faces coming up through the lawn, then don't worry, because if you visit garden centres now, you can buy pots of the autumn crocus in full flower, and you can put them in your lawns, as we have here at the mound. You'll get a wonderful drift at this time of the year. Of course, autumn crocus isn't technically a crocus, it's Colchicum autumnale, which is something else entirely, but then that's just splitting botanical hairs. Down here in the summer meadow, there's a couple of jobs still to do before we leave it alone for winter. The first is to mow out the clover and narrow-leaved plantain. And you'll remember that these plants were introduced in the seed mix way back in spring. The whole meadow then flowered really well in summer, and at the end of summer I went through and scythed down all of the top growth to simulate that summer grazing of cattle out in the fields. Now, in the period between that scything and today, it's about 6 weeks or so, what's happened is that the plantains and the clovers have really taken the opportunity to put on a spurt of growth, and left unchecked, what will happen is they will just form a carpet, wiping out all of my wild flowers. So the first job is to mow them all down. And don't forget, take away all of the cuttings, because you don't want to enrich the soil with any nutrients, because that will also then suppress the wild flowers. Once you've mown off all of the top growth, it's then well worth going through the meadow with a springtime rake, because that will open up any of the gaps in the grass sward. And this is what I'm looking for. This is where I can sow the seeds of my parasite. Now the plant I'm going to put in is a British native. It's called Rhinampus minor, or yellow rattle. So called because it has yellow flowers, and when the seeds are in the seed pods, as you walk through the meadow, it rattles like a rattlesnake. And the reason that I'm including this now is because it needs a period of vernalisation, which essentially means that the seed needs to be chilled through the winter months. And the way yellow rattle works is that on the roots it produces a specially modified organ called a hosteria. And that is like a probe. It grows into the roots of the surrounding grasses, and then it literally sucks the moisture and nutrients from the grass into the yellow rattle. Now, in taking that energy away from the surrounding grasses, it has the effect of stunting them. It doesn't kill them, it just reduces their vigour. And that means it opens a very small window of opportunity for the wildflowers, because reduced grass vigour means that my wildflowers can get up, going, and then flower. Once the seed has been set, you have to go across the garden, simulating a herd of cows, pressing the seed in order for it to germinate.
Now, when you spend good money on a plant that claims to be hardy, you want to know that that's what it is, that it will last pretty much indefinitely. But it does beg the question of what hardy is. I mean, what would you say?
Well, I suppose
constitutes hardiness?
most simply, a hardy plant is something that will come through pretty much an average winter and be alive and thriving at the end of it.
It does depend, you know, the combination of cold and wet is pretty tricky. So we're doing a trial here. These are plants that have been developed and will be widely available from next spring. They all claim to be fully hardy. So what we're doing is planting them out in trial conditions, and if they survive through till next spring without problems, well, then you know that they are hardy and you can buy them on those grounds. We've got a thermometer to take the temperature, also a rain gauge, because that's important. It's the combination of wet and cold can be tricky. What are you putting in there, Chris?
This is Rus Tefina laciniata tiger eye. It's a real mouthful.
No wonder you're buying.
Defy anybody to go to the garden centre and ask for the whole thing. But I have to say, I still think this is going to get through the winter, no matter what the cold or what the wet. I think the thing that will hit this, because of its delicate foliage, is late spring frost, which should also, in my book, come under the hardiness.
Right, so hardiness for you really is a plant that can reach, what, end of May?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Ah.
What about those heucheras?
What do you think? I mean, heucheras, I think, are going to be massive next year. There were lots of them in the shows. They've all got sort of edible names as well. This is licorice, and then I've got creme brulee, and this is key lime, as in key lime pie. Do you think this is lime green? Fresh, bright green,
It may not be
but
now, but it might
lime-
well be in spring. I mean, when it comes through,
Yeah.
I mean, but that's another interesting thing, is to see if the temperature affects its coloration.
Exactly. And also weather, because we're in a fairly open spot here. I mean, that's perhaps the brighter colours could be scorched by strong sun too.
And it's on the end there.
If you're a big fan of those, I would be very, very tempted to pull off some stems right now and pot them on and put them in a cold frame, because I can't see any of those three getting through the winter.
Really?
I think they're just going to bite it.
I
I
think
really
they
do.
might. I think we might be surprised.
Well, I'm putting this
I think they
buddleia
might.
in. This is Lila capilla, which has got these slightly variegated leaves spreading. Claims to be 4 foot by 4 foot.
It's going to get bigger
in
than
one
that.
season?
In one season.
Yes. Get much bigger.
I don't know. It claims to be hardy, fully hardy, to at least -10. Mind you, it can get to -10 here, so it'll be interesting to see on that.
Yeah.
Well, I think much more unlikely is this. Now, do you know, have you come across this dwarf palm before? Camarops humilis argentea.
That looks tender.
It looks
It really
tender,
does.
but it comes from the Atlas Mountains.
I think the thing about the Atlas is it is cold, undoubtedly, but it's not wet, and that's what we'll do for it. It's the wet.
To trial it properly, it claims to be fully hardy. I've potted it up with almost pure grit, really sharp drainage. We'll see. It claims to be hardy.
Well, I'll be
I don't
amazed.
know. I mean, that's what, 50, 60 pounds worth of plant.
It's not at all. It's £130 worth of plant, and that's 10 years old. But
It'll never reach 11.
No, it won't. If I was spending 150 quid, I'd take it in.
So would I.
You know, I'd lift it up and take it. What you should be spending your money on is that. You get 20 of these for the price of that.
Very nice.
Euphorbia
That's
caracias
a beautiful
blackbird,
one.
which
Yeah.
is a great foliage and stem combination, wonderful lime green flowers, and it's caracias species, which we know is hardy. I think of all of these, this will be the one that we all go for next spring.
This Formium tenax all black, claims to be grow anywhere and be completely hardy. I think it's lovely. I think it's really good. And the All Blacks, being a rugby fan, that appeals to me. And if this lasts through to when the Lions play the All Blacks next summer, then I think we can say it's hardy.
What do you think of the campanula here? And it's called purple pixie, and to my eye it's not purple, it's sort of a mauve.
Yeah, it's very pale, isn't it?
But again, I think that should be fairly hardy. That
Yeah.
would probably work.
Yes.
You don't sound convinced.
Oh, I think it might be hardy. I'm not sure if I would want it next summer, but it may do. It may do.
It may
Basically,
well
all
do.
you're going to have in your garden
No, I
is the
really
palm
I
and the
really
Formium.
like those two, very much indeed. In fact, they're great. And I love that dark heuchera too.
The
That's
heuchera is
fine.
beautiful, but it tends to be all these dark colours that we're sort of
Yeah.
picking out here as well.
Anyway, those are plants that we hope will be looking good next spring. But here's a group of plants that we know look good right now.
We all know that the secret of good gardening is choosing plants that work well together. 3 plants that merge beautifully are this Euphorbia, Schizostylis and Sedum. Euphorbia Diamond Frost, which is brand new for next year, is not hardy, but it can be grown in containers and brought into the greenhouse for the winter. Otherwise, you could grow it as an annual. Either way, it'll be absolutely studded with flowers from late spring right the way through to the autumn.
Schizostylis coccinea jennifer is a prized plant at this time of the year in any herbaceous border. At home in South Africa, it thrives on nutrient-rich and sun-drenched soils. And if you want to succeed with it in this country, well, the key to success is drainage.
Sedum spectabile are superb performers, attracting butterflies and bees like almost nothing else in late summer, and then seeming to get better and better as autumn progresses. The secret is to grow them as hard as possible. Really good drainage and poor soil will guarantee a happy sedum. One of the hardier vegetables are broad beans. And if you sow some now, they will survive winter as very small plants and then grow away in the spring. I'm using Aqua Dulce, which is generally agreed to be the hardiest variety, and they will germinate in about 3 weeks' time, grow to about 4 inches tall, and then stop growing until February or March. But that'll be just enough to give them a headway of about 3 or 4 weeks over the spring-grown crops. And it's as simple as that, just pop them in. The width, a double row, the width of a board, and about 9 inches apart. Right, that's one run, double row done. Label it, and the job's done. For the last month or so, I've been sowing regular batches of seed to give me salad leaves throughout the winter. Now, these are plants like rocket, mitsuna, or carefully chosen hardy varieties of lettuce like Marvel of Four Seasons or Rouge d'Hiver. But however hardy they are, to get the most from them, it's a good idea to protect them, especially in very cold weather. And nothing does this as well as a cloche. There are a number of different cloches you might use, and there are pros and cons to all of them. We've laid them out here. And the first one, you buy it in a long length like that, so it can cover a whole row, and it's got fleece built into it. Pretty good value at under £18. This is similar, same sort of idea, but polythene, same sort of price. But this will be more rigid and obviously let more light in. And you can fold it up and store it easily. So although they're long, they are useful for a small garden. This one at the back is more expensive. It costs £37, but obviously it's wider, so you could have a little mini garden underneath it. The disadvantages are that it's a bit of a fiddle to put up and collapses whenever you try and move it. And finally, it needs staking down firmly because the slightest breath of wind will blow it away. However, it does cover a good space. This one here might seem expensive. It's £27, but it's very well made, lasts a long time. I've had some for 10 years and I'm still using them, and they're completely rigid and stay in the ground. So I would say a very good investment. This is the cheapest of the lot because it's homemade. Just use canes that we had for the outdoor tomatoes, made them into a wigwam shape, tied them with twine and cut them off, and you could have any shape you like, leaving the ends long enough to stick in the ground, and then just cover it with fleece or polythene or even bubble wrap, which of course will be warmest of all, although the light levels will be a bit lower. Total cost, a couple of quid, definitely good value. If you've just got one or two plants you want to protect, a single cloche will do the job. Now this is a plastic one, and you can buy that for under 4 quid, or you can make your own. This is a large squash bottle, cut the bottom off, stick it in the ground. It's got its own vent, so a certain amount of moisture and air can get in. Doesn't look beautiful, but it'll do the job. Finally, the Rolls Royce of cloches, cast iron, very handsome, very heavy, not going to blow away, and nor it should, because that will cost you £150. So, he pays your money and he takes your choice. Okay, it's time now to look at some of the jobs that we might be getting on with this weekend. It's time to give your greenhouse a really good clean. This not only gets rid of any lingering pests and diseases, but also makes the best possible use of all available light. And while you're about it, give the gutters a really good clean out too. A good organic way to stop winter moths climbing up into your fruit trees, laying their eggs, which will then hatch out and damage next year's crop, is to place a grease band around each trunk. Wintertime might be coming, but it's still a very good time to sow grass seed. In the warm soil and the wet weather, it'll germinate very fast, grow gently over winter, and be ready for next spring. It's not too late to take cuttings from violas to ensure yourself a fresh supply of rooted plants for next spring.
Well, we've done just about all we can to protect the garden for any cold weather we might get, but of course we mustn't protect these.
No, and if we have the usual cold and damp weather, your creme brulee is going to bite the dust, I tell you. It doesn't stand a chance of making it through the winter. The great thing about having damp weather, though, is that the fields are full of mushrooms, field mushrooms and puffballs as well, which are great.
I don't know about you, unless you know exactly what it is you're eating, I tend to suspect most fungi as being potentially dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's true, and if you're confused about fungi, you'd like to find out a little bit more about them. They are holding family fungi forays, that's not easy to say, right across the country all the way through October.
And also this Sunday, it's National Seed Collection Day. Now, tree seed is exceptionally good this year. We've got hornbeams here at Berryfields loaded with seed. So go out into the garden if you've got a tree, collect some seed and grow yourself a wood. And you can get details of that, also about your fungi foray, on our website. And we shall be back next week at the same time. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The weather this weekend does seem to follow a clear north-south divide, and for once the north has got the better of the deal. They will have a clear day on Saturday with the best of the sunshine in the northwest. However, if you live in the south, it's going to be windy with rain spreading up from the south. There is a risk of frost in the north on Saturday night, but that will be followed by another dry, clear day on Sunday. In the south, I'm afraid it's going to remain cloudy with some rain or showers.
And Rachel de Tame has chosen her top 100 star plants in this BBC Gardener's World book.
Generation after generation, the Oddies worked in